should.
Okay. Members of the committee, for the record, my name is Sarah Gelser. I'm a state senator from Corvallis, Albany, Philomath, and the surrounding areas, Senate District 8. We are here today with LC 120, which is a fairly comprehensive bill. It does two particular things. There's a piece that Representative Post and I have come together. As you all know, Representative Post and I share very similar views on adolescent sexuality, and that is why we have a post-Gelser bill on teen sex. So at the, not weird at all, in the fall of this school year, we started to receive communications from students and staff of the Salem Keizer School District who were concerned about an unusual and relatively unprecedented interpretation of the mandatory child abuse reporting law. What staff were told by their school district was that they were required to call law enforcement or the child abuse hotline anytime they became aware of any consensual sexual contact between teenagers. This could include sexual intercourse, this could include kissing. This would result in a number of problems. One, an overwhelming number of telephone calls to the child abuse hotline every time there was a middle school dance or homecoming or prom or passing period in a high school, if you've ever seen the extreme displays of public affection in hallways in between classes at a high school. The other problem is that it shut down the ability for parents, teachers, school nurses, school counselors to have conversations with young people about issues like consent, sexuality, and birth control. It also runs counter to our state's policy around age-appropriate and medically accurate sex education. The extra twist to this information that was given to the Salem Keizer School District was that, as all of us, and we learned this in our training the other day, we are mandatory reporters 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the staff was told that if they became aware that their own children were having sexual contact and they were under the age of 18, they were also required to make those reports to the child abuse hotline. So we talked with the Marion County District Attorney, we talked with the Legislative Council, we talked with the Department of Justice. And although for decades this has not been the common sense interpretation of the law, we cannot explicitly state in the statute that it tells you that you do not have to call when that happens. We did get confirmation from the Marion County DA that they have never prosecuted an individual for failing to report when two 16-year-olds make out in the back of their car or even have sex with each other when it is consensual. And we also were able to confirm that a pair of 16-year-olds having consensual sexual contact with one another have never been criminally prosecuted for that consensual behavior with one another. So we went back, we talked to the Salem Keizer School District, we asked if they could step back on this guidance. They said no, not without legislation. We also asked if once we agreed to work on this legislation and had language, if they would put a halt to that interpretation for this school year, given that it would be a major change in practice from what they had done in the past, and they also said no. So that is currently the state of affairs in the Salem Keizer School District for Salem Keizer students. So what we have for you is this bill that in the first part, and I will tell you what the second part does in a second, simply says that if you are a mandatory reporter, you are not required to report consensual sexual activity between 14 and 21-year-olds as long as there is not a greater than 3-year age difference between them and it was otherwise consensual, that there was no force or coercion. With this legislation, of course, we would still have a mandatory report if a 20-year-old was having sex with a 14-year-old or if a 17-year-old was having sex with a 12-year-old. Of course, we would still have mandatory reporting if there was concern that there had been alcohol and abuse of power, any sort of lack of consent. But what this does is puts these conversations back where they need to be, which is between parents and their children, students and their school nurses and counselors and adults that they trust. Kids need to be able to have these conversations about consent. Kids need to have accurate information to keep themselves healthy and to prevent teenage pregnancy. So that is that part of the bill. I'll turn it over to Representative Post and then tell you about the second half of the bill.
All right. Hi, Committee Vice Chair Knope and fellow members of the committee. Bill Post, House District 25. Really, I would say ditto except we just add this. The Salem Keizer School District is in my house district, and so I was bombarded by both teachers and students via email and phone calls and Facebook posts and everything when this policy came out, and I kept going to them in the district and asking, if this was not a problem before, why is it a problem now? You know, and it was thrown back in my face. It's you, the legislature, that did this to us. And I, of course, being the great fiscal conservative that I am, I thought, why are we going to waste legislative time to fix something for one school district? But apparently we need to. There is just enough, and I mean enough, ambiguity, I guess, that we need to clear it up a little bit. My concern, you know, obviously, and Senator Gelser has said it so well, I do not want to condone that kids have sexual activity. I think it's a horrible thing to do, not wise, long-term or short-term. So I'm not making a statement of we're giving the okay. I'm saying, you know what, it's going on. I think the CDC says 42% of kids are doing this, and it's probably more, but we're in that's the reality. I want kids to have a safe place to go to say, oh, I have a problem. And I have a vested interest. I'm married to her. She has kids come to her all the time, and she's now feeling this, I'm supposed to report this, and it's consensual sex between two 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 17-year-olds. So this needs to be taken care of. Again, I'm really disappointed that we have to take care of this at the legislature, that we couldn't just work it out with the school district that was involved. But I think this is really important that we get this done, and I'm so glad that Senator Gelser just really jumped into this with both feet and allowed me to participate in some small way. It's important, and it's important for the kids, but it's important for the teachers too. It's really important for the teachers and other educators to be that trusted person that you can go to and say, I'm having a problem. I made a mistake, or I just need help, or whatever it might be. So it's protection for both the kids and the teachers, educators, et cetera. And because there may not be a safe place at home. I mean, you know, we all know the reality of life today. There's not always a safe place at home. Maybe a teacher is that one safe person you can go to. And I don't want teachers calling me saying, I have to report on my own kid. I mean, that was the part that really got me pretty upset. So anyway, thank you for the time, and I look forward to answering any questions or just moving forward on this.
And the one other element that I wanted to make sure that we put out there as well, if we get to the point where we are making these reports to law enforcement or to child welfare, which of these kids that has been engaged in consensual sexual activity is going to live with the label of a sex offender for the rest of their lives? I mean, that there are two outcomes to this that are pretty profound. Pregnancy, because we aren't giving kids access to good information, and somebody getting a label for a consensual activity that is entirely inappropriate.